Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Hollywood Actors Guide to Surviving the Film and Television Industry. This is your host, Jennifer Lynn Warren. We are going to talk about gestures today. Not court gestures, those gestures you do with your body, and even verbal. So verbal cues that are not words are also considered to be gestures. So where do these things come from? I know you're probably rolling your eyes like, oh, this is so basic 101 acting. Stick with me. They come from your cultural background. Gestures are learned through social interaction. So what does that mean? That means your character is going to have different verbal and physical cues for different things than you do. So what do you do about that? I mean, you could go on YouTube, watch people from areas and cultures to see how they move. You know, if you are going to play perhaps someone who is British, but when you were 8, you moved down to South Africa and you actually took on it. That's where you spent most of your life. Well, and suddenly you find yourself back in Britain, what kind of gestures and vocal inflections may you have taken from the culture down in South Africa while you were living there? So I would go on YouTube, I would look at news stories and documentaries of people who are from South Africa, the more specific, the location and city and background you can get. So if maybe you were from Korean descent, but born in Britain and then moved there, get as specific as you can and start just watching people from areas and different cultures and see how they move. Words say what we mean. Gestures say how we feel about what we just said, physically or tonally, right? So this is where we get subtext from. You could say, I'm really glad he came over, and mean that you're really glad that he came over. Or you could say, I'm really glad he came over. I do not mean that he's really glad that he came over. Or I could say, I'm really glad he came over. And you could hear it in my voice and you're not sure if I'm being sincere or not. If you're not sure someone's being truthful, what do? You look at their body language. So a cool exercise you can do, if you don't believe me, especially about tonally in your voice, that a tone can be a gesture, or like, can be a gesture, things like that. Watch a foreign language film dubbed over in English. Then watch the same scene in the original foreign language. The foreign language, foreign to you, not to them, of course, is superior partly because the verbal gesturing and tones are important. They're vitally important to the culture you are listening to. I started watching Panchenko. Oh my gosh, I should have looked it up before I started this. I think it's Panchenko. It's on Apple. And there are, it's great because like the Japanese subtitles are in one color, the Korean subtitles are in another. But when I first put it on, Apple TV just had it set default to have the actors all dubbed over in English with no subtitles. And I watched the first scene and I'm like, this show seems pretty horribly acted to me. What's the big deal? And I finally went through some Google searches. I fixed it. So I got to listen to it in the original Japanese and Korean with the proper subtitles. And suddenly the work of those actors just came to life. And I was like, oh, yes, it is so important. Something that I like to do for my more complex characters is I like to write a novel-like description of my characters to bring clarity to who they are. I like to think that I'm like Sherlock Holmes, who, by the way, like if you ever read a Sherlock Holmes novel, you know how good he is at describing other characters. So I like to do that for discovery. I like to comb through every detail to figure out, how to bring this character to life. And so I wanted to look up, so there's this great book called Look Homeward, Angel by Thomas Wolfe. And there's a great passage in there. And so it starts out by saying my brother Ben's face. But, if you were writing this as an actor and you were playing Ben, you would say my face. But I want to quote the author properly. So it goes, quote, "My brother Ben's face, thought Eugene, is like a piece of slightly yellow ivory. His high white head is knotted fiercely by his old man's scowl. His mouth is like a knife. His smile, the flicker of light to cross the blade. His face is like a blade and a knife and a flicker of light. It is delicate and fierce and scowls beautifully forever. And when he fastens his hard white fingers and his scowling eyes upon a thing he wants to fix, he sniffs with sharp and private concentration through his long pointed nose. His hair shines like that of a young boy. It is crinkled and crisp as lettuce." End quote. Can't you just feel and just see this character like come to life? Like if you found that description in a script, you would know so clearly how to play that character. Unfortunately, it's very rare that a writer will take the time in a script to write such a beautiful description for us to follow. But you can write that description for yourself. Do it for yourself. And it really helps, especially the more complex characters come to life. Some of you have done some of this type of work. This is where you get animal work. So if you've ever been in an acting class and they want you to do animal work, and they're like, all right, now I want your character to be like a giraffe. How does a giraffe move? How does a giraffe eat? How does a giraffe look around? What does a giraffe look like when it's sad and happy and angry? That's called animal work. And then sometimes you take that work that you do on the giraffe and then you put it onto a character that you're working with in a scene and see what you can use and what you want to throw away. It's really fun work to do. But at its core, what I think it does is it takes us back to our primal roots where we communicated without language because we didn't have language yet. There was a time where human beings had no language. So how did we communicate? Through grunts, through gestures, through baring our teeth. Like when you grit your teeth at somebody or somebody smiles, but they're smiling through clenched teeth, that I think that's coming from that primal way we used to like tell somebody that they are about to get messed up because you are not happy with what they're doing, but you're holding some sort of restraint. That comes back. There is a primal part of us for how we move and how we talk to people that is still there. And that's where we get a lot of our body language. And we read each other's body language unconsciously all the time. Whether you realize you're doing it or not, you're doing it. A lot of times when you tell somebody, I don't believe what you just said, it's because you're reading their body language. But you as an actor, you have to study and bring it to your conscious level. You have to be conscious of other people's body language and what they're doing and what they're saying. So I have an assignment for you, and it is fun. It is to watch the TV show called Lie to Me. It stars Tim Roth. It is so good. It's from like 2009 to 2011. So it's a bit of an older show, but it's still so fun and entertaining to watch. So I'm going to read a description so you know why I want you to watch this show. Lie to Me is an American crime drama television series. Sorry, tripping over everything today. In the show, Dr. Cal Lightman and his colleagues in the Lightman Group accept assignments from third parties and assist in investigations, reaching the truth through applied psychology, interpreting microexpressions through the facial action coding system, and body language. So this show is actually based on the work of a real psychologist who really, so what microexpression is when you move part of your face ever so slightly. It's almost like you can't, unless you're really looking for it, you don't even notice. And if you play poker, This could be a tell. So some poker players will say, oh, I know that that guy's about to fold because his right eyebrow will lift just like a millimeter. That is a micro expression. And that is the type of thing that not only can you endow your characters with, but it's something that you should be looking to build a library for your own characters. And the reason why I want you to watch the show Lie to Me, not only is it an entertaining way to learn the actual science of the psychology, because they stuck very closely to the science because they wanted the show to be accurate, is that as you watch each episode, you can take in that information. This is what I did for myself when I watched the show. I took in the information and then I let myself have a couple of days before watching the next episode, and I would take everything I learned and see where I could see it in the real world. And interestingly enough, one of the cool superpowers you get from this is you get really, really, really good at knowing when people lie to you. That is one of the things, of course, the show focuses on because they're doing criminal investigations. And you learn when people are not lying to you and things like that. But it helps you in your real life as well. We are still supported by WeAudition.com. Thank you so much, WeAudition. We appreciate your support here on the show. If you're an actor who needs a scene partner, I was in class this week and everyone was talking about how isolating self-tapes felt. And I feel such the opposite since finding this site. When I get an audition, I'm like, this is so great. I can actually, pull somebody up on my computer, get to know a new person. I get to widen my acting community. So I actually have the opposite reaction. And I think that might be why I'm doing really well with self-tapes. I book from self-tapes more than, in the room. That just seems to be how I do. And I think it's really partly to do with the beautiful community I have built, not only in my personal life, but also on WeAudition when I need somebody right now and I don't feel like calling a friend to come over. I just want somebody who's already at home in their pajamas, comfortable, happy to help me with my scene work. For 25% off of your lifetime membership to WeAudition.com, use promo code HAG25. It's the acronym for our show, HAG25, Hollywood Actors Guide 25, for 25% off. Well, that's it. That's all I have for you this week. Break a leg out there, and remember, you are not alone.